popular online game Roblox, facing a new lawsuit accusing it of allowing sexual predators to victimize children. Again, that's the lawsuit.
But what about BeaPlays? The very YouTuber who built her platform around child-friendly content, yet pursued and groomed a teenager still in high school. For weeks, people have been accusing BeaPlays of predatory behavior, but now, Bea has finally responded. Next, I'll be going over her response that she posted on Twitter a couple days ago. This statement I recognize is long overdue. The reason for this delay was simply because I didn't know yet how to word properly the way I am feeling, and I wanted to make sure that I was taking into account the feeling of others, particularly the people I've hurt. Before deciding on how to move forward, I wanted to preface this by making it clear. I am not looking for forgiveness, nor am I expecting acceptance of this apology either. I am making this statement solely for the people I've hurt, and for the people I have let down or disappointed, and the people whose faith in me I have tarnished, as well as to provide explanation, though not to dodge accountability, and only to provide clarity. When I was 19, I was at the lowest point of my life I had ever been at. I had recently moved back in with my parents after a difficult experience moving out on my own, suffering with severe body dysmorphia, dysphoria, depression, and anxiety. I was extremely lonely, and a friend of mine at the time mentioned that she knew someone who played similar games to me and enjoyed similar content to the style I made, and suggested that perhaps it may be good for me to consider making new friends. I accepted her suggestion. I became friends with someone who, while not legally under the age of consent, was still too young for me to have been friends with at the time, particularly because I lacked the ability to properly understand what was appropriate and what was inappropriate to say or to do around someone who was younger than me. Our friendship group at the time consisted of a few other friends too, some whom were adults and some who were 16 and 17. Our group became extremely toxic, and everyone within it during that time became very negative and toxic people. Our friendship grew quickly, and I stupidly allowed myself to develop far too much attachment to someone who it was inappropriate to do so with. Due to the way I had previously closed myself off from the world, and because of my anxiety and depression caused by gender dysphoria, I lashed onto anyone who gave me attention or showed me any kind of affection. This was obviously not okay. Additionally, I was worried about him constantly. He lived in a very complicated home that contained a lot of verbal and sometimes physical abuse. This was the reason I began sending things to him. For example, a microphone so he could begin YouTube, or support to buy a new laptop when his old computer broke. I made very inappropriate jokes and said very inappropriate things. I created a relationship that was not acceptable, and simply it should have never happened. A couple years later, when he and I were both adults, he came to stay with me and my family. My mom allowed him to live with us because she was equally worried about his abusive home. She had spoken to him many times through calls and video chats with me, as she took an active interest in who all her children were friends with and who they were talking to, as any good mother should. While staying with me, I allowed my separation anxiety and my need to feel validated by people to overwhelm me, and I treated him extremely unfairly. He did not deserve it, nor was it okay for me to behave in such a way. After he left, I did speak to him. On a few occasions, I apologized to him profusely and even thanked him for, and I quote, allowing me a second chance to be a better friend. Following that, we played games together a few times and then just naturally drifted apart. This was, at that time, investigated by my school after someone reported that they were concerned. My school did a full investigation, and their findings were that while my behavior was not acceptable, there was no laws broken, and I had not committed anything nefarious. This obviously does not excuse my behavior regardless. Over the last 6 years, I recognized as I grew up and became the adult I should have been from the start, that none of this was acceptable. I have continued to regret and play back these mistakes I made in my head almost every single day since. I have wished over and over that I could go back in time and slap some sense into myself so that I would recognize how incredibly stupid I was. No matter how hard I tried, I obviously could not rewind time to undo those mistakes, and I could not take back the hurt that I have caused. My constant need for people's approval grew because I felt unworthy of support and unworthy of kindness. I convinced myself that I had to get people to like me by any means necessary. This is what then developed into my nasty, reactive, and snarky personality that many of you will likely remember from across my YouTube career, and sometimes it still refers its ugly head today. 3 years ago, I began therapy. I wanted to help to improve and be a better person. I wanted to help to ensure that I was being a good, kind, constructive member of society and to be the best version of myself possible. I began volunteering, working with charities, and trying to support anyone else that I could, be it small creators, people suffering with in-real-life situations, or important causes. I rarely spoke about these publicly because I didn't do them for attention or clout. I did them because I wanted to make up for the person I had been and the mistakes I had made. While I do feel strongly that my therapy has helped greatly with controlling my emotions and learning to be and do better, I of course still fall short and make mistakes sometimes, as you all saw with my unfair reaction during my last live stream, which was, and you are correct, completely unfair for me to behave in such a way. I still have a long way to go and to become the person I want to be. I know who I am today. I know I am not an awful person, certainly not intentionally, but perhaps that's what makes it worse. I know I never mean any harm towards anyone, however, that does not excuse the fact that I have harmed people and I have upset or caused distress for others. My goal is not to convince anyone else to believe in the person I feel I am today, but instead for everyone to know that I do recognize that I still have a lot of improving to do, and a lot of growing to do, and a heck of a lot of reflecting to do. I never ever want to cause distress for someone else ever again. That has never been my intention. For everyone who has been impacted by my behavior, you'll never know how sorry I am. I wish absolutely no ill intent for any one of you. I have avoided mentioning anyone by name because I do not wish for anyone to send any nastiness or negativity towards anyone involved, because simply they do not deserve it, nor will it solve anything. I genuinely wish for nothing more than for them to have a full, happy, successful, and healthy lives. Please do not hold any of these people, nor my friends, or anyone previously associated with me accountable for my mistakes. They have done nothing wrong, and were not aware of this. I am not mad nor upset that I am being held accountable for my actions. I know and agree wholeheartedly that it is absolutely necessary to hold people in a position of responsibility accountable for their behavior. For that reason, I plan to make a separate statement soon on my own experience with Dress to Impress, to ensure that their behavior is also held accountable, as it does not escape me that they have utilized the situation to avoid accountability for their own mistakes, and I have seen many of you want to understand what truly happens behind the scenes. While I have made mistakes and should be held accountable for them, it is not fair for me to take the fall for mistakes they have made but use my name to hide behind. I am sorry for not being the person you all deserved. I really, truly hope you can find the peace elsewhere in a community that deserves your support. I will forever regret the person I have been, and I only hope that moving forward, I can be the person that my friends and family truly deserve. And that is the end of BeaPlays' statement. This statement, though long and dressed up as an apology, reads more like an attempt to reshape the story than to truly accept responsibility. BeaPlays spends much of it focusing on her mental health struggles, loneliness, and difficult home life, but those points feel more like excuses than genuine accountability. She frames her actions as a result of being unhappy or not knowing better at the time, rather than directly owning the fact that she pursued an inappropriate relationship with someone underage. What makes it especially concerning is how much of the statement centers her own pain, regrets, and therapy journey, while the harm done to the victim is pushed to the background. She also highlights that no laws were broken, which comes off as an attempt to downplay the seriousness of her behavior, as though legality is the only standard that matters. Rather than being straightforward and sincere, the statement is weighed down by self-reflection, giving the impression of image management rather than remorse. Real accountability means focusing on the impact caused, not on personal growth or public reputation. This feels less like an apology to the victim and more like a calculated move to preserve credibility with fans. And those are my thoughts about this situation. Now, what do you guys think? Drop your thoughts in the comments down below, and thank you for watching my video. Bye!